Hi everyone, and welcome to not Crosswires, but sort of Crosswires. This is a brand new show, and it's a Crosswires production in partnership with The Interface, and we're calling this Charging Status. And let me first of all welcome my co-host, and actually, to be fair, the guy whose idea this was, Alex.
Hi, James.
Good to have you back with us.
Yeah, it's good to be back.
So tell us a little bit about the inspiration for this show that's now become Charging Status, and of course who you're representing.
Yeah, cool. So I've been on the show a few times before. So I run the Interface, interface.uk. It's a UK-focused blog about electric cars, about cars in general, tech stuff, networking, all sorts of things that interest me, basically. Running for about 10 years, but last few years we've been sort of focusing on electric car news. It's something that is quite interesting. It's sort of where we're all going eventually. So it's a good topic to talk about because there's a lot of stuff happening. The whole idea for the show was, at the moment, there's so much new stuff being launched by car manufacturers that it's hard to not talk about it. So that's basically it.
So we chatted about it, and Alex pitched me the idea and said, yeah, let's do it. So we're going to do this as a monthly show. And we been very upfront for our US and non-UK listeners, non-European listeners. We were saying this is going to be quite UK and European centric, and there's a reason for that. And the simple reason is there's not much content in that space. I think we were saying pre-show, a lot of the podcasts on EVs are very heavily US focused.
Yeah, a lot of the big websites are US focused as well. So you've got Electrek, you've got Tesla Rati as well, and they're extremely UK focused. They are doing extremely US focused. They are doing a little bit of UK news, but not much really. And even the traditional car magazines like Autocar, Auto Express, they haven't got any podcasts talking about anything anymore. So it's good to have something audio-based to talk about electric cars. So.
Awesome. And we even, believe it or not, we've even been prepared. We've even got a little bit of a plan for the episode. And longer term, we are going to have some premium content in this. But don't worry about that for now. Everything's free. Come and enjoy. So let's get our engine started. And because it's an EV, you won't hear anything. Actually, correct me if I'm wrong. On EVs, something a friend of mine told me, his dad has a Leaf. He gets to drive it when he's home from uni. Under a certain speed, they are legally required to make a little bit of an audible noise to let you know a sort of they're there. Is that?
Yeah. So that's the way things are going. So with the early EVs, they just were silent, and I'd imagine you've got eyesight issues. You can't see the car coming. You'll probably get hit by it. So recently they have had to make a noise, so like it sounds like a spaceship basically.
Yeah, so, it's kind of cool. It is really cool.
So I've noticed with cars reversing, they just sound like a weird hum, which is quite cool.
Yeah, and I'm definitely seeing more and more EVs, and not just Teslas. There was, sort of setting the stage here. I started to see more and more Teslas on the road. And oh no, hang on! I saw a Polestar the other week. I saw. Yep. We said cars, but of course electric vehicles. I've seen a lot of local authorities using the Nissan's electric little vans.
Yeah, the EV 200.
Yeah,
those are quite an early one they've used. But one of the big organisations in this country that are now using more electric vehicles, especially vans, is the Royal Mail as well.
Really,
this is ideal because usually when you get the Royal Mail delivery, the depot is not that far from you usually, so they can afford to have 150-mile range and do their rounds in the morning. So I'm seeing a lot more Royal Mail vans be electric now.
So realistically, and I mean, I guess before we start talking car news, that's a really good point. We're starting to see more and more, because of the range, not limitations, but realistic expectations of range. EVs have a certain almost mission profile, and certainly for deliveries, it's about maybe the last few miles of the journey that make an EV perfect. Is that a fair assessment?
That's fair. We're starting to see more of the larger vans as well be electrics. Like, I've noticed that every time I see a British Gas van now, it's electric, which is crazy.
Which is somewhat ironic, isn't it?
It is.
British Gas driving electrically. Okay. Yep. From so many levels. Okay. All right, Alex. So, what's new vehicle-wise? What have we got to really shout about this month?
There's a lot of stuff. I mean, I'm just doing the last few weeks on the Interface. There's a lot of new stuff that's been launched. There's new vans, there's new cars, there's new brands as well, like new subcategories as well. So I'll start from the top of September, I think, possibly. That's probably a good idea. So first thing I've got is Skoda are working on a small electric car.
Ooh.
So Skoda really they've only got one electric car at the moment, and it's part of the Audi group, the Volkswagen Audi group. It's like the large, I think it's called the Enyaq. It's got a large SUV, which large SUVs, that's sort of the pattern for electric cars, and they're expensive and they're huge. So it's good to see that Skoda are working on a small electric car, and it's going to be under £20,000.
Wow.
Which would be quite nice. So it's going to be very similar size to the Fabia, which the Fabia will probably go away at some point, and it'll be replaced by this electric car that's going to come up, which is quite good.
That's awesome. I've got to say, so my sister drives a Fabia. I think it's a 2014 Fabia. Do you know what? I've had friends who've had Fabias, for various generations. Honestly, I think that sort of size car, and I know, for maybe for our non-UK listeners, let's be honest, Skoda have not always had the best reputation in this country.
Not really, no.
And I think there's so many things that you could speak to on that, but I'm going to put my head out there. I'm just for full disclosure for everyone, I cannot drive. So maybe an interesting choice as a co-host for a EV podcast, but there we go. But I can aspire to it because, of course, we'll talk about self-driving at some point during the shows. To have something under 20,000, which makes it accessible. My dad's looking at some point at changing the family car, and his big gripe, as we talked about, second time you were on the show, to actually talk about EVs, that was the challenge. So well done, Skoda. Yeah,
definitely. The whole VW group are going electric, so it's a good thing to see. So it will probably use the same platform as the ID3 because Volkswagen has spent so much money developing the platform for that, so it'll probably be a shrunken down version of that, so it'd be quite nice.
Do you think then we'll also see something on, because as you mentioned, that whole Volkswagen group, so and it's usually been the case that you've got like the platform, as you said, the ID3 platform. Could you see that then going up market to an Audi ID3 platform, a more higher end?
Yes, it's called the MEB platform, so it's already been stretched and modified in certain ways. For the smallest car Audi have got is our Q4 e-tron. So it's quite a smallish SUV, kind of. It's still quite big. At the moment, Audi haven't got anything city car sized that is electric yet. So I'd imagine at some point, because Cupra they've got their own ID3 car, so I imagine at some point Audi are going to have something in that size.
I'm just thinking of the old boy race, and I'm probably stereotyping a lot here, the old boy racer S3 sort of class.
Yeah.
I'm being awful. But yeah, that sort of class car. Anyway, sorry, carry on.
A bit more of US news. So Ford have got 2 electric vehicles on sale in the UK at the moment. They've got the Mustang Mach-E, which is a largest SUV. It's quite popular, actually. And also they've got the E-Transit, which is quite a large... Well, it's one of the most popular vans in this country. It's got very large, quite a good range. But one thing we haven't got over here is the F-150 Lightning. And Ford have actually seen a massive growth in August. They saw 307% growth of sales of all the electric vehicles. And that's through the Mustang Mach-E, the E-Transit, and the F-150. So they've sold quite a lot of them now, which is really good.
And that's for a truck platform, the F-150 being a very famous. And so is that is the Lightning a full EV truck?
Mm-hmm. It is. So typically when car companies launch a electric version of an existing car, they're a bit lazy with it usually. They sort of modify it and shove batteries in where they can. But the F-150 Lightning looks like an F-150, but it's completely brand new, which is really good. Yeah, so it's got really good range.
So it's truck shaped, but not typical truck.
Exactly. Yeah.
Internals. Hank Hill would be furious with that truck, I'm sure. Where's the dang engine, Bobby? Sorry. I apologise to all our Texan listeners. But that might be a fair impersonation of Hank. All right. Now, has that launched over here then yet, the F-150, or is it?
They're not bringing it over here, unfortunately. It's too big.
Right. That's true.
But what's good is over in the US, Ford have now got a 90% market share of commercial electric vehicles.
Oh, wow.
Which is incredible, considering they've only got 3 cars on sale.
That is something. Now, and you hit the nail on the head with the Transit. Every man with a man? No, man with a van.
Yep.
Traditionally would be would have a Transit, or in fact, usually a Transit, right? And to see Ford bringing, because I think didn't they kill off the Transit line for a while, like the traditional?
I don't think so. No. They've got 2. They've got the smaller Transit Custom, and they've got the large Transit, and then the one that's electric at the moment is the large one.
Right. Sorry, I just seem to remember something on old Top Gear about the Transit going away, but it might have been just, yeah.
That's fine.
Okay, so what else have we got?
We've also got Vauxhall have launched. So typically with Vauxhall, you've got the VXR brand, and they haven't since Vauxhall was bought by Stellantis. They haven't done any VXR products, any sporty products. But now they're going more electric focused. They've replaced the VXR brand with GSE. So it's sort of like in sort of a hark to GSI of those older models.
Yes.
It's basically a sporty sub brand or sporty line of vehicles. So one of the first cars that will come will probably be the Corsa and the Astra when they have their own electric versions of that, which would be quite nice. So these would be more sporty models, probably with some more interior changes.
So we are seeing, all these car makers expand, not just their typical platforms. Like, and I think we're going to talk. You're going to talk about maybe the one at some point. We're going to talk about the Corsa E, but we're seeing them expand beyond just say I don't even want to say family car, but the more, what's the right term?
It's more sporty cars.
Yes, we're going more sport. We're going more sporty, which is great to see in EVs. Yeah, it's good to see that diversification.
Yeah, Vauxhall haven't spoke much about what it would be, but at some point they will release more information.
And of course, people will be able to find all of that once it's out, once it's released. Make sure you go and check out the interface because, Alex does a great job of keeping that site updated. This is going to be a monthly show, so we will try and bring you as much news as we can. But for more up-to-date stuff, do make sure you go and check out the interface because, as I said, that's why we're doing this show, to sort of bridge that gap a little bit.
Yeah.
So I have a quick question because we've seen so much coming out of all these different companies. As it stands right now, are there any, of the sort of the big names in cars or vehicles that are really sort of being stubborn and saying, no, we're not doing anything with EVs at this point?
It's a good question. I'd imagine probably your more supercar companies. So
right.
Lamborghini haven't done anything. Ferrari haven't done anything. The only thing they've done is a mild hybrid of a V6 engine for a Ferrari. And also Alfa Romeo hasn't gone. So more the older companies haven't gone that way. And also, yeah, there are some companies that haven't.
That's okay, but I think eventually we will see everyone in that field. We're in interesting times for EVs, I think is a fair statement.
Yeah, we are. Some of the more British companies like Lotus and the smaller jobs like Morgan and Ariel haven't done anything yet either. So,
in their defence, I don't know if they need to because those are like your Ariel Atom and your Morgans and things like that. They are very specialist cars. They are not. They're probably not the sort of thing that you're going to take down to the shops. They are your track day cars, and I can see those being petrol for a while. But maybe I don't know. Maybe one day we'll have a track ready EV.
Would be quite cool.
I don't think do we have one yet? Do we have anything that's? Because I can't think of anything.
The only thing I can think of is the Tesla Model S Plaid. That's very track focused, but
true.
nothing.
Maybe the Roadster.
Yeah, that's when that comes out.
Yeah, when. So, any more car or vehicle news that we need to highlight?
Yeah, the other thing I've got a big fascination for electric vans. I don't know if you can tell. So
I can.
The Volkswagen, the ID Buzz, which is sort of a hark back to sort of the old camper van days. They've launched the ID Buzz sort of people mover. It's kind of a people carrier, sort of a people mover van essentially, and they've also got a van version of it as well. So earlier last week, the van version went on sale, and that's really interesting. It's like a brand new commercial vehicle. Prices are from 46 grand though, which is that's with VAT. But that's got massive amount of range, 256 miles of range. You can hold 2 European pallets in there, which is like a standard way of seeing how big a van is. And it's got all sorts of things like CarPlay, USB-C ports, so it's quite a modern vehicle. But it'd be good for fleets and stuff. So
that's really interesting. So, and in terms of that price point, how does that stack up with, say, an equivalent 2 European pallet combustion vehicle, brand new, similarly spec'd combustion vehicle?
It's more expensive. I've seen with the Vauxhall stuff and the Citroen stuff, the electric versions of the vans are more. They're just more expensive. So, that, for example, the Transporter, which is a similar size, the diesel Transporter is 31,000. That's without VAT. The ID Buzz Cargo without VAT is 38. So it's only 4 or 5 grand more. Obviously, with less range because a diesel vehicle can travel a lot further. But still, it's for short range stuff, fleets and stuff, would be quite good, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I can see I mean, I say newspapers, and this is me going back to a little bit of my, my previous heritage, certainly my family heritage. I think I've said on Crosswires, my dad was a print engineer, in newspapers. And of course, a flip side of that is all the transport of the newspapers between different agents and sites. And, and I always remember all the vans. There's a huge parking garage down at the bottom of the thing. And, you'd send all the papers down. But again, these sort of 2 pallets in there, decent range, enough to get round, say, the county to distribute those papers to the, the distributors or the agents. Perfect.
Yeah, definitely. Or the Royal Mail or those sort of people, so yeah.
Well, do you know, honestly, I like this idea because there's also a market that I definitely could do with taking advantage of at times. As we said earlier, the man with a van. Now, I have to move a sofa. I finally got a sofa for the new flat, which is incredible. But moving it is a whole different story because I can't drive. So it looks like we're going to probably be using one of my friend's cars to shove it in my back. But, a nice, be able to call someone and say, hey, I need to pick up this sofa. He's got, okay, no problem at all. I've got my nice, reasonably sized EV van. Let's go and do it.
Yeah, it'll be quite a good thing to do. The other bit of stuff is Volvo will be launching this seemed a bit weird to me when I wrote the article that Volvo. You mentioned Polestar earlier. Volvo have got Polestar as sort of a sister company, sort of a sub brand. I find it weird that Volvo are making fully electric cars still, which is I'm not sure where that lines up. But they've got a whole new. It's called an EX90 that's going to come out in November. No pictures have been launched yet, but it's going to be just a electric version of the XC90, which would be quite cool. But I'm not sure what they're going to do with that going forward because they've got Polestar and Volvo.
But I mean, first of all, always a big fan of the XC90. That was always the sort of the family car I wanted us to have as a family because I don't know but there's something about Volvo. I don't know what it is. There's just something about their cars that I've always liked.
Yeah, they're quite nice.
Yeah, and going EV on that. But, I think about Volvo and Polestar, maybe it's a similar sort of thing to Skoda and Volkswagen, where maybe the Polestar is going to have the more innovative features. I'm wondering, could it be EX? Is it just EX90, not EXC90? Then?
Yeah, it's EX90, yeah.
EX90. I wonder when we're going to bring out the Joe 90. No. Okay, so before we move on, so this is maybe the problem with working with I was going to say youngster, but you're not that young.
No.
But younger than me, youngster, is that a lot of my TV references get lost. Like we were talking earlier about Robert Llewellyn's content for Fully Charged. I said, he's probably busy making Red Dwarf. And you're like, what's Red Dwarf? I've never seen that show. And my heart just sank when, you're meant to be British, Alex, and then, not recognising Joe 90. Now, to be fair, so Joe 90 was a Jerry Anderson Super Marionation show, similar in style to Thunderbirds and Captain Scarlet. And it was about this young boy called Joe who put on these special glasses, definitely unlike these, and could take on different skills and could become like a superhero, not a superhero, but a spy or it's very cheesy. Anyway, enough about that. But I can see the EX90 being more of your traditional design that's been made into an EV, whereas the Polestar range might be more of your innovative stuff and might have more of a that's cool. Or, hang on a second, I've got a joystick for a steering control.
That makes sense, actually, because with the XC40 Recharged, I've seen one of those. They're literally just an XC40 that's electric. So I think you're right with that point.
Now, I have one, but isn't on the script question. Have you had a chance to experience any of the new Model S with the new yoke controller?
No, I haven't. I haven't seen any of those in person. I've never actually driven a Tesla.
Wow. Okay.
No, I've been in one a few times, but no, I've never driven one. But no, I haven't seen. I don't know if they even launched. I don't know if they even offering that. I'd imagine they are, but I'm not sure.
I mean, you know what I mean, don't you? The new Model S. I don't know if it is over here. I thought it was.
No,
I thought I'd seen it, but there you go. Listener feedback. Have you got Model S with that yoke? What's your experience with it? Send your feedback to chargingstatus@crosswires.net, and we'll make sure we'd love to include that in future episodes. I think would that be a fair?
Yeah, we have like a feedback section. It'd be quite nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Please do. We genuinely want this to be an engagement, chipping number comments and everything like that. So, any more vehicle news before we move into charging?
Not for September, no.
So, charging. I mean, the first thing we probably need to talk about, and of course this is very UK-centric.
It is
the cost of living crisis.
Yeah. Electricity's got a lot more expensive. I mean, especially at the public chargers as well, the price per kilowatt hour is basically doubled, if not more than that. Definitely more expensive to run an electric car at the moment.
And of course, because that was, of course, a big argument, is that when fuel prices were going up massively earlier this year, it was like, oh, I've got an EV, I'm fine.
Yep.
But actually now,
it's a bit more difficult, yeah. It's still not quite. I haven't got the details of me, but I did some working out the other week. Electric cars, to charge them, are still slightly under, to do the same amount of distance and stuff. So slightly under the price of petrol. So if you got one, you're still doing a bit better, but it's still not quite as a nice opportunity as it used to be. So
no, and I mean, I guess if you are very fortunate enough to have a decent in-home charging with a decent solar setup and all that fancy stuff, then you probably are still doing better. But let's just be really honest. Both of us are probably not in that position, and let's be really honest, it's probably not within the reach of most of our listeners, that sort of setup.
There are some, I think Osprey, not Osprey, Octopus Energy. They were doing some sort of deal with nightly tariffs. As you could get. There are some people that I know have been on the 5p per kilowatt hour tariff until next year, which is quite like quite a nice thing. But that's not going to last forever, unfortunately.
It's a nice idea, and I think Bulb were doing. Bulb was starting to try that. Now, Bulb are in an interesting position because they are technically they're in administration. They've been bailed out.
Oh,
yeah, which is I was with Bulb at the last flat, but I'd like, so in terms of, obviously we've got the electricity price problem, but in terms of availability, what's been going on in terms of charging news? I think you mentioned something about VAT being potentially cut.
Yeah, there was a lot of outcry from manufacturers about they want the VAT reduced on the charging price, basically, because now that the price per kilowatt hour has gone up, a load of other companies have just been asking for the VAT to be reduced, which is an interesting move. And
just for our non-UK listeners, VAT, the best way to translate VAT is sales tax, but it's a lot more complicated than that. For example, while Alex is getting me details, for example, VAT does not apply to everything equally. So I could go to the shops right now and buy 2 packets of biscuits, now for Americans, cookies, and one will not have chocolate on it. That will not be charged. That will not have VAT on it. But if you've got chocolate on it, it gets VAT. Yeah, did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, there you go. It's a lot more complicated than that. And a couple of years ago, there's a whole thing about when VAT has to be charged. Like, there was a whole thing years ago about Greggs, who are, how would you describe Greggs to an American?
Delicious.
Yes.
It's a budget bakery, really, but
yeah. Oh, I have to share this. I mean, it's completely non-EV related. I was in Primark the other day, which is budget clothes. Now, To be fair, good clothes. I'm actually wearing Primark today, but Primark now have a line of Greggs clothing.
Yeah, they do. It's quite funny.
So, I mean, there you go. You could get your E-Transit Greggs van while wearing your Primark Greggs gear while eating a Greggs.
Awesome.
There you go. So yes. Sorry, back on track.
Yeah, so I managed to find the details about the VAT details. This was it was about 4 or 5 days ago, I think. The bosses of 23 public charging companies have publicly asked the government to reduce the VAT from 20% to 5%, just to help people afford the charging, I guess.
Well, that makes sense because if I remember correctly, 5% is the VAT on traditional energy.
Ah, right. Okay.
I think that's right. And so that makes a lot of sense if they're saying, actually, no, this shouldn't be charged at the same rate of VAT as, say...
Yeah, you are right. Yeah, it says cutting the 20% VAT rate on public charges, which would match the 5% charge on domestic electricity in the UK. Yep.
Right, and that, again, makes public charges more viable because that, correct me if I'm wrong, charging can make or break a country's rollout of EVs.
Yeah, so if you need to travel anywhere, especially... I think we mentioned it in the last episode we did on the road to EVs. It was I had somebody I knew that tried to travel on the motorway network, and at the time the charging infrastructure from Ecotricity was quite poor, and GridServe have done a good job to improve that lately. But unfortunately, if one person has a bad experience on the charging network, that word of mouth gets around, and the whole general feeling of that is bad. So the charging network is pretty much a very important part of the puzzle, really.
Absolutely, and of course, as we talked about on that previous episode, and we will link the previous episode in the show notes, as well as, of course, all the articles that Alex has found and put together on the interface. So if that goes through, and let's hope our government do that. I mean, we're not going to get too political, but our current mini budget has not exactly helped. So let's see if the government actually do that. I'm not as confident as maybe I'd like to be. Anyway, more charging news. What do you have for us?
The other thing that was announced yesterday was Tesla have now hit a new milestone for the UK and Ireland as well. They've now got 1,000 Tesla superchargers. These sound like, from what I can understand, it sounds like individual chargers
Right.
with 100 different 100 different locations. So the 1,000th supercharger was opened, I think it was last week by the look of things, in London. So that's quite a good milestone, especially that now they aren't just for Tesla owners; most of them are for everyone now as well, which is a good thing as well.
That is a really good thing. But just correct me if I'm wrong, but just easier for Tesla users to to use.
Yes,
rather.
they're much easier. There's no payment to do up front. There's no app to use with the Tesla stuff. You just literally rock up and plug in, and that's it. You get charged at the end of the month. So
because it knows that it's a Tesla and it knows it's your Tesla.
Yep, that's
it's
it.
everyone else. Yeah. But, I mean, this is probably like your experience of using different charging providers. Have you found, because one thing, for example, it's almost like messaging apps, because everyone uses a different messaging app and you have to have them all installed. Have you found that your phone is now overloaded with, I've got this app for this charging network, this app for this charging network, and everything like that? Is there some commonality?
Yeah, so when all the different electric charging companies have launched stuff, they've just done their own apps and their own NFC readers and stuff. But I noticed the handful I've used that more and more now are just going to have contactless readers. So there's one I used at Lidl, and I can't remember the actual company that runs it, but it was literally just it had two options: contactless or the app.
And is that a similar sort of thing to pay at the pump?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah,
in a traditional, which is fascinating. I love that because, as you said, that's much easier. Just tap because we're both. Well, correct me if I'm wrong. I think we're both Apple Watch wearers.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
you just tap your watch. Oh, now that'd be a cool feat. Apple Express Transit, but for express charging.
That's it. iOS 17.
Yeah,
that'd
awesome.
be awesome.
Express Transit is, we're focusing on cars and not public transport, but I've got to say, Express Transit is so cool.
I went to London in January for work, and I forgot how cool it is. Just to sort of not even, you don't have to even pull your jumper down. You just strap your watch next to the thing, and it's amazing. They have got that in the US. It's a bit less organised, I think, than the TfL stuff is, but in certain areas there are transit cards and that sort of thing. So
what we don't have here is, without again getting too far from EVs, though, to be fair, EVs are going to start playing a more important role in public road transport, I think, as we start to see buses become more EV.
Yeah, I know more in China that a lot of buses now are electric. I'm not too sure. I have read recently that there are some areas of the country, like smaller cities and stuff, that have got electric buses now. I can't remember off the top of my head where they are, but it's quite a good thing to see.
It's great. And so going back to charging, you mentioned Lidl. We're seeing a lot. Is it fair to say we're seeing a lot more of the non-higher end supermarket chains starting to put EV chargers into their car parks?
Yeah, I think we mentioned on the last episode I was on that Morrison's, I've seen chargers out now.
Yeah,
Lidl as well. I'm not too sure about Aldi as well. But I know Tesco have done the partnership with Volkswagen. Volkswagen have paid for it all, but they've got free. It's actually free charging at Tesco's, which is I'm not sure how long that will last now. But if you've got any electric vehicle, not even Volkswagen, you can charge for free at Tesco, which is quite good. Yeah.
So as they say, every little helps.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, that's terrible. And it makes sense because, thinking practically about charging, it makes sense that while you go and do your weekly shop, your car sits there charging.
It is. So if you only spend half an hour in the shop or something, you wouldn't, off the top of your head, you wouldn't think, oh, it's not going to add much range. But it is, with DC charging, it's incredibly fast. It will charge so quickly in that amount of time. It's almost worth just sitting it on there and charging. I'm not sure how good that is. I don't know. I'm not sure how good that is for the health. If you think with your phone and the mentality about charging it, topping up, it might not do good for the health. But I'm not sure how that plays out with a car. But I mean, it's very fast.
I would hope, but I say hope. I would hope that they've got good battery management systems that are designed, because a phone battery, I mean, you've hit the nail on the head there, but it's something we have to consider, and maybe doesn't get considered enough, is long-term battery health on these batteries. Because it's not like you can replace EV batteries, but it's not quite as simple as opening up a little battery door on the bottom of your electric remote control car. It has to go back to, the maker. And effectively, the whole body, correct me if I'm wrong, particularly when you're talking Teslas, the whole body will have to come off.
Yeah, it's basically the part of the chassis of the car. But I have read with the Teslas, though, that the certain people have had ones for 10 years and they're still fine.
Wow.
So I think we're still in the early days of knowing what they're going to do, but I think it might be fine, to be honest. But we'll see.
No, it's something to certainly keep an eye on. Are we seeing chargers in places that we might not have expected them, or has there been any interesting developments of sort of cool projects that we've heard about for charging?
There seems to be chargers like in a lot of different places, like I don't know, hospital buildings, just even like day out places, like National Trust places, just everywhere that you wouldn't even think that there seems to be chargers popping up, even at McDonald's and things. So
I saw that, yeah, EV charging at McDonald's.
Yeah.
Kind of not exactly. Well, I don't know. If you're going to eat in at McDonald's, then fair enough. You think of McDonald's as a very drive-through. Oh, now that's something I wanted to ask you about. And I don't know how much you know, but where are we at the concept of sort of? I hate the term wireless charging, but induction EV charging. Have we got any further with that since the last time we spoke?
I don't think any companies are doing anything with it, to be honest. You lose a lot. You lose some efficiency with wireless charging, especially with even MagSafe on the iPhone. It's just slower, and I think, especially the amount of voltage and current that they're going to handle, I don't think anyone's doing anything with that at the moment. So
this sort of future vision of being able to, drive along the road and have your car trickle charge as it's driving, that's nowhere on the.
From what I know, I don't think anyone's done anything with that. So yeah.
I mean, that'd be cool.
It would be cool.
Again, but as we get more in-home chargers and better in-home, because am I right that in-home charging's improved massively as well in the last couple of years?
Yeah, so the external pod, I think it's usually PodPoint that manufacture those. Yeah, those can charge pretty quickly. I think usually 7 kilowatts, which is probably charge a car in about 5 or 6 hours overnight. The only thing that's really got better is the public chargers, really. The home chargers were they're still a lot slower than public chargers, but it's for home overnight, really.
And I guess that's the point, isn't it? That your home isn't going to have the same sort of power input as.
That's it.
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, that mimics exactly what we've got in the combustion world, where no one's got a petrol pump at home.
No.
Well, not that I know of, anyway. I mean, well, interestingly, the place my dad used to work at had, I think they stopped it, but certainly when he was first there, they had diesel pumps on site.
Oh, wow.
For their fleet.
Wow.
Because I think it worked out cheaper. But beyond that, I've never seen that. But it's interesting, hospitals, that makes sense.
Yep.
Although, it'd be nice, getting on my soapbox again, it would be nice if NHS staff didn't have to pay to park,
Yep.
and maybe charge. Hey, there you go. Secretary of State for Health, free EV charging for NHS staff. I mean, they can't afford the cars, but at least you can offer them free EV charge. Oh, dear.
Most workplaces do have free charging, actually. Where I used to work, they had free EV charging, sort of a nice company perk, and I've seen some other companies have the same things. So,
and how does that? There's a question. How does that scale as people? Say, for example, as your typical office has more and more people with EVs. How does that work out in terms of, because say you've got, for example, 4 EV charging spaces, and say 20 staff with EVs. How would that? I mean, is the fact that DC charging is becoming faster and faster going to be a case of, okay, you've got the charging slot from here to here today, and then you swap out?
I don't know how that's going to work. Where I used to work, there was probably 8 or 9 chargers, and only 3 or 4 people had EVs, so that wasn't really a problem. But I'm not sure that's going to work going forward. Maybe every space is going to have an EV charger at some point. But
that makes sense. But hey. So any more public charging use? Because that seems to be where we're going to be focusing on, because, as you said, unless homes get more, inbound power, which is unlikely to happen, it's public charging that's going to improve the reduced range anxiety, I think is probably a fair...
Yeah, I think you're right. Nothing else new apart from the cost of it.
Yeah. So let's see how that goes, because obviously we're doing this monthly, so it'll be an interesting... this podcast is going to be a very interesting snapshot throughout the cost of living crisis to see where we're up to.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right, so test drives, just like you go and test drive a combustion car. Alex has been annoying showrooms all over his local region to get a few test drives of a few EVs. Now, we just want to be really clear. None of these companies, first of all, because they happened before this show even started, and just for transparency, none of this isn't anything special. This is literally just you going into a dealership and saying, hey, can I try out this car?
Yeah, so I'm driving an electric car is quite a special experience, I think. It's very different to even an auto. So I've driven 2 or 3 the last few months, mostly smaller hatchbacks. They're just very, very unique to drive and quite special. So one I had a few weeks ago was the Honda E.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I haven't seen many of them on the road, and they're quite a funky little looking car. Sort of the round headlights, looks like a little frog, a little bit. But yeah, it's really nice little car. It's got, for a person who's into tech, it's got everything you need in it. It's got massive screen on the dash. It's got no door mirrors. It's got a mirror it's got a camera for the rear view mirror, HDMI input for different things. It's crazy.
Wow. Okay. And CarPlay?
It's got CarPlay. Yeah.
So I'm looking at the Honda E, and in a lot of ways, that's a beautiful little car.
It is. Yeah. It's a shame not many people have bought them, but.
No, but looking at it, it has the look of an EV. Like, things like silly little things like those rear lights, and as you said, like almost like the frog eyes on the front. Yeah, as you said, so those are just cameras. Then there's no mirrors; they are just cameras on these little stalks.
Yeah, on the door mirrors. Yep.
Okay, and then that all gets routed through that big display.
Well, yeah, you have 2 little cameras either side, where the mirrors would usually, either side of the screen, right at the extremities of the dash. And then what's nice about that, I had someone in the car with me, and they said they could see what I was seeing because there's no difference in the mirror, if you know what I mean.
Oh, now that's a big thing, because if you're trying to maybe turn out of a busy intersection, your passenger won't be able to necessarily help, or you will struggle to see the passenger side mirror.
Yeah.
So that's quite a big thing for safety.
It's good, and they can be moved around with a little button on the door, so you can adjust the view as well, and they're very, very crisp quality as well.
And you don't have to clean them.
No, they clean themselves apparently with the rain. But
okay,
yeah,
that's kind of cool. But yeah, and you don't have to worry about someone. Well, I mean, I guess there's something still protruding, but you certainly don't have to worry about some idiot knocking them off.
Exactly. They're more aerodynamic as well. So, but they also the camera there's a camera on the boot lid for the rear view mirror as well. So there's a little switch underneath the mirror, and you can move it into that mirror mode, and then you can have it as a camera as well, which is quite cool.
Now that's cool because again, in traditional cars that don't have this, you have a problem. If, say, for example, you're carrying a load of stuff when you're moving house,
Yep.
well, you've potentially blocked your rear view mirror. I always remember, going on caravan holidays, the car being full, but we're having to try and leave as much of a gap as we could. Although, to be fair, we had a whopping great caravan in the back, so it didn't really matter. Your rear view mirror was useless anyway. I don't know. That's an interesting one. So, of course, if you can adjust those cameras' views, first of all, you can probably get past any blinds. I can't see you towing with this particular vehicle.
No.
But, maybe down the line, you've got that option.
Yeah.
I really like that. So, in terms of... So, first of all, charging-wise on this car, and this is my complete ignorance of... Forgive me if I'm wrong.
That's right.
What are Honda using charging wise? Are they using DC? What are they using?
Yes, the charger flap is on the bonnet. So on the bonnet is a black panel. So
I see it. Yeah.
There's a button inside the car, and that lifts up like a little trap door. And there's a Type 2 and DC charging CCS in there. So it supports all the fast charging stuff, which is good.
That's really good. Now, does that, because obviously again, I'm going back to sort of referencing combustion. With combustion, when you go to fill up, there's that wonderful scene like in The In-Betweeners where Simon's trying to fill up and like, park closer, pump 4. Do you have that problem with EV chargers, or is it because we're just cables? Does it matter where the charging flap is?
So yeah, we'll talk about it in another episode, but I had a Corsa E last year. And the charger flap is in the same place as a fuel pump, so it's on one side of the car. Some public chargers have one charger unit per two bays.
Right.
So you have to, if you park on the left-hand side, for example, the cable would not always reach to the one side. So I made that mistake. Had to get out and turn the car around. So it's actually quite useful having the charger flap on the front of the nose of the car.
Oh, because of course, if you're pulling into the bay, typically that charger's in front of you.
Yeah.
So actually, here's maybe a call out to the manufacturers: don't mimic fuel filling doors. Yep. You don't need to put them in an accessible place.
Yeah,
I think I saw someone saying how big some of these EV charging doors. I think it's on the BMWs. It was a YouTube short, just saying how ridiculous some of these covers are.
Yeah, We're getting a bit strange, but.
And what was so? I mean, I guess a question. So for this test drive, first of all, how long were you able to test it for?
Some of the cars I've had it for a day or two. This one was a few hours, so I didn't really get a good picture. One of the cars I've had before, I wrote a review. I had it for 2 days, and I wrote a review on the interface for it. So I had enough time to sort of formulate some sort of opinion on it. But no, I only had this for a few hours, which was enough time to sort of get an idea about it. The only downside with it is the range, unfortunately. I think because it's such a small little car, the range was only 137 miles, which it's not a massive amount if you want to use it for commuting. I think so.
Because when we think about that, and this is maybe something that we can explore and rate as we go through these cars and try and get you to look at more of them, is we say a range of 137. That's the equivalent of like a battery capacity gauge, isn't it? Like that's how much you can do on a full charge in ideal conditions. And you think, oh, that's fine. 100. My work's only say 10 miles away, or maybe 5. But then you've got to think, well, you back and forthing. So that then becomes how long between you have to fully charge, right? It's not at the most. If you're doing a return journey, at the absolute most, you're going to be able to do about half of that range. But only if you can be sure. You have to have a good charging network on your journey plan if you're going to do longer than that.
Yes, that's it. Yeah. It supported CarPlay. It had that massive screen. You can move different widgets between. You can move the CarPlay unit to the passenger if you wanted, and they could sort out the directions for you, and you can move it back.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. One thing I really liked was cars at the moment are going for software buttons for the temperature and the fan control. This is all knobs and stuff. So it's very accessible with your hand, and it's a nice thing to see, really.
That is That is a really good fit, as you said, because I think maybe you've hit me now. If you quickly need to adjust for temperature, and you're now, I don't know what the law is on this, and maybe you can correct me, but the laws of the road are very complicated. But I would imagine that there's the same distraction factor to having to fiddle about to change the temperature setting as there would be to changing the radio station. Whereas if you've just got a physical dial that is almost muscle memory, that's safer.
It
right?
is, yeah. I've changed the temperature control in one of those vehicles before, and you don't feel quite safe because you feel yourself drifting off a little bit and in the lane. So
Yeah.
it's definitely a safer thing to have physical buttons.
Does the Honda E have any sort of autonomous features at all?
It had a surprising amount of stuff on it. So it had adaptive cruise control, it had lane assist, which worked quite well, and it had self-parking system as well, which was standard,
Cool.
and it had blind spot monitoring as well, it had a lot of stuff on it.
And now those aren't just exclusive to EVs, but I guess EVs make the most sense for those features to be there. How did you find? I mean, one question: how did you find myself parking? Did you get to try that?
I did. It's very clever actually. I've used that system in another vehicle before, and it's amazing how well it works. It just you drive past this bay you want to park in, and then press the button. It will scan, and then it just reverses itself in.
Wow.
What's quite weird about that Honda is that the most small little cars, even combustion and EV, are front wheel drive. So you have all the gubbins and stuff at the front of the car, and that what that does, it limits the amount of radius that the front wheels can turn. Because the Honda E is rear wheel drive, which is quite unique, and all the stuff is at the back. The front wheels can turn in a massive amount of degree, so you've got a really, really good turning circle on it as well, like a taxi.
That's wonderful. Now, this will be using sort of a combination of cameras, and I'm going to guess some form of LiDAR technology.
I think so, yeah.
Which is, again, I love that. I love the fact that we've got that. I mean, being honest, that's the path that we need to be heading down for me to be able to have a car. Once we get, I think there are, correct me if I'm wrong, there are different levels of autonomous driving.
Yep.
And I think the version that I need, which is basically means that you can operate the car without any human intervention, I think is level 5.
I think you're right, yeah.
And most stuff is nowhere close to that.
No. Unfortunately not.
No. I guess the final question to ask on my Honda E is pricing, and would you recommend it?
It's quite expensive for what it is, I think. So they're about £30,000 in the UK, and before the government grant was removed in June for cars, that was about 28, 26. So yeah, it's in comparison to other cars of that size, it's quite expensive, I think. It's very nice to look at, and if it's a second vehicle for someone, I think yes. And if you're just driving it around where you live and not relying on it for a long journey, I think probably yeah. But it's only if you can afford it, I think, because it's quite expensive.
So would you categorise it as a city runaround?
It's a city runaround, but premium, I think.
Right, a premium city runaround.
Yep.
Okay. So if you can afford it, yep. If not, and there are alternatives, and we're going to be looking at those in future episodes. I know you've driven a few things, and hopefully we'll get you in some more cars going forward. Awesome, Alex. This has been such a great. I mean, I'm really happy with how our first episode's turned out. I think we've put our foot down on the. I was going to say the gas, but that's the wrong term in this podcast. We've enabled more acceleration. There you go. Alex, where can people find the interface, and where can people find you on Twitter?
So the interface is at theinterface.uk, and also on Twitter at _interface_, which was
Thanks, Twitter.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I'm on Twitter at AlexLow30 as well.
Excellent. And, of course, you can find myself on Twitter. I'm JS Bilsborough, BILSBROUGH. You can find the whole Crosswires content at CrosswiresMG. Of course, check out crosswires.net for all the episodes. We are working on and Alex has seen a little sneak peek of this. We are working on a brand new Crosswires site. We're really excited about that. We've got so much cool stuff. So, the plan is these will come out monthly. I think we're going to be looking at sort of the start of a month for these to come out, so we'll be effectively reviewing the month that's just gone. Do send your questions over to chargingstatus@crosswires.net. Of course, jump in on the comments. And once we launch the Discord channel, we will definitely have a charging status section in there for you to all chime in with your stories. Thanks for listening. And Alex, thank you so much for this idea. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, it's been awesome. Thanks, James.